Everyone talks about finding the one, but what if the one was not another person? What if this is actually the most powerful, intimate, soul-shaking relationship you will ever have because it's the one you build with yourself? After love taught you to settle, to shrink, to self-abandon in the name of love, you do not need another partner, you need a mirror. You need to look yourself dead in the eye and remember who the fuck you were before survival became your personality. Because when you stop chasing chemistry and start courting your own calm, you learn how to flirt with your own solitude instead of running from it. That is when you become untouchable. When you stop auditioning for love and start embodying it. When being single stops feeling like a gap and starts feeling like a place of peace. This is not a season of waiting, it's your reclamation, where singleness becomes sacred, your pleasure becomes power, and your presence becomes the standard every other love will have to rise to meet. I'm Meaghan Webster, a trauma-informed strategist and abuse recovery coach, and the woman a narcissist hopes to never meet twice. And this is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, where women stop mistaking bare minimum for effort, learn how to be single and love it, as they start rebuilding their power and self-trust so they cannot be manipulated. Today's episode is for the woman who's been through the storm and finally made it out, who is standing in her own peace but doesn't know quite what to do with it. You left the relationship, you left the chaos, but now there's silence and it feels foreign and frightening. You want to know what's next? Well, if you want healthy, sacred love, I promise you right now, it's not the time for you to try and go find a new man. You date yourself first, because the woman who can seduce her own life becomes untouchable after abuse. Here's why being single fucking rocks. Nobody tells you this part because they're scared of women who don't need permission to be powerful. Being single is not sad. It's the cleanest energy that you will ever touch. Your power without a leash. It's you remembering your solitude is not punishment, it's a rebirth. It's waking up and realizing every ounce of energy you used to spend decoding someone else's moods now belongs to you. You're sitting in a cafe feeling electric in your own company. You sleep diagonally across your bed, cook naked, blasting music at 1 o'clock in the morning because you don't have to edit your joy to keep somebody else comfortable. It's realizing how much of yourself you ration to stay loved. And suddenly, you stop apologizing for being the whole thing. When you're single, your life becomes a canvas again. You get to rebuild your mornings, your pleasure, your power. That level of autonomy terrifies people who have never met their own freedom. But once you taste it, you can never hand it back. You start remembering what you like. You remember what you crave. You remember your rhythm. You're weird. You're wild. You stop performing and you start becoming. I talk about 2 different narcissistic relationships that I was in here and on social media, my ex-husband and my ex-boyfriend before him. When I first left my ex-husband, I could not tolerate silence. I filled it with all the noise, anything possible. Netflix, scrolling, being out of the house around friends 24/7, constantly on my phone, literally anything to get me out of my own thoughts. Until one night, I just had this feeling of like, fuck this. I recognized that I was running from myself, from finding peace, fun, enjoyment. I put on a black dress, no friends, no safety net, just me. I walked downtown Port Credit, that's where I'm from, and I took myself out for a fancy dinner. I people watched, I soaked in the ambiance, I ate a delicious meal, I engaged with the couple next to me, and I walked home feeling full, happy, and free. And that was a night that changed a lot for me. It felt like I stopped searching outside of myself because I didn't need permission to have fun. I didn't need to be chosen to feel alive. And I certainly didn't need a man next to me to do the things that I wanted to do. I could do whatever I want. I'm a vibe. I'm fun. I want to live out loud and have experiences that are completely my own, unattached to anybody else. And that's what dating yourself can look like when you stop waiting for someone to make your life exciting and start being the reason why it is. Being single isn't a waiting room. It gets to be like an initiation for your next evolution. Here's something that's going to make this very real. It's not the quiet part that hurts, it's what the quiet reveals. For years, chaos was your baseline. Your nervous system learned that love equals tension, that attention equals adrenaline, that calm equals danger. So when it's finally peaceful, your body panics. You crave the very thing that you left. You start calling peace boring. You start mistaking safety for emptiness, but that discomfort is not loneliness, it's actually withdrawal. You're detoxing from adrenaline. You're rewiring your body to understand that safety doesn't have to feel like suffering. You are not lonely, you are rewiring. You are not lost, you are actually landing home. And most people run here, back to distraction, dating apps, back to noise, because stillness mirrors everything that you have been avoiding. But if you learn how to stay, If you can breathe, cry, move, scream, dance your way through it, that is when you become untouchable. So next time you feel that urge, that need to fill that void, that restlessness, I want you to remember you are not missing them. You're not even missing like a relationship. You're missing the rush of it, right? The chemical hit that used to mean love. And really let that sit with you for a minute. You don't crave connection. You crave the chaos you once called intimacy. The best part here is that you can retrain that. Put your phone on D&D, close the lights, sit in the silence, do some deep breaths, put your hand on your heart and say out loud, I am safe now. At first, this is going to feel very uncomfortable. Staying in that is going to be a piece that actually heals you. It's nervous system mastery, not spiritual bypassing, not toxic positivity. It's the quiet authority of a woman who refuses to abandon herself. Peace is not boring. It gets to be your new high. And most people don't know how to date themselves first, right? So let's talk about what that actually looks like, because self-love has become one of the most diluted concepts on the internet. Dating yourself first is not bubble baths and aesthetic journals. That is self-maintenance. Dating yourself is self-seduction. It's asking, what turns me on about being alive? And then making that your highest priority. The most important relationship you will ever have is with yourself, and people forget that. You can validate, appreciate, love, respect yourself, and you set the standard of what you will and won't tolerate moving forward. It's reclaiming your mornings, your rituals, your space. It's buying flowers because you wanted them. It's cooking for one and lighting the candle anyways. It's talking to yourself like someone you're falling in love with. It's noticing how you show up in this world and the world around you, the coffee shop that smells like heaven, the playlist that makes you dance, the texture of sunlight on your skin. Every time that you choose that kind of devotion, you are teaching your body that safety and joy can coexist, and that you don't have to earn it, that you are proof that love doesn't have to hurt to feel real. When you focus on yourself, you're teaching your body that this is okay. Now, I want to take this deeper. When we're talking about dating yourself, pleasure mapping is an extension of self-love and self-trust, as well as your own awareness, and this is your self-intimacy. Pleasure mapping is learning the landscape of your own body, your energy, and your emotions, where your aliveness hides and what wakes it back up. I did a whole episode on pleasure mapping a few weeks ago. It's slowing down long enough to ask, where do I feel pleasure? Where do I block it? What sensations make me soft? What touch, what words, what experiences make my body feel alive? You start noticing that pleasure isn't just sexual, it's spiritual. It's nervous system safety disguised as desire. It's your body's way of saying, I trust you again. So you explore. You breathe into your own skin, you trace your collarbone, you move your hips, you find the places that have been frozen in survival, and you invite them back to life. This is not about performing. This is to really embody it, to remind your body that it is seen by you and it's safe. Pleasure mapping is not necessarily about the climax, it's about connection. It's learning how to access your aliveness without needing somebody to ignite the fire. And when you master it, your energy changes. You become magnetic without trying. People can feel it when you walk in the room, and it's not because of how you look, it's because of how deeply you inhabit yourself. The woman who knows her own body, breath, and pleasure is impossible to control. I had a client who said she just wanted people to take her out for fancy dinners and adventures. I said, you do not need to wait for anyone else to do that for you. You can choose yourself right now. She started booking solo trips and learning salsa and ordering wine she couldn't pronounce. And within a few months, she said that she felt very different out in the world now. She felt like people were drawn to her, that the energy around her was different. And I told her, they are not seeing somebody new. They are seeing what you finally stopped hiding. That's what happens when you finally date yourself. You stop chasing external validation and start radiating internal safety. You flirt with your life, you dress for desire, and you take yourself somewhere that feels expensive. The real truth here is that the woman who can turn herself on with her own life never runs out of power. There's a part of this where the self-love component won't actually touch, and that is your shadow. Because once the noise is gone, the truth is going to surface. The jealousy, the grief, the anger you swallow to stay nice. The ache that whispers, what if I'm too much? What if I'm unlovable? What if nobody ever stays? That is not weakness. That's the part of you that is waiting to be witnessed. She's the keeper of every story you never got to finish. The one who remembers where you lost your power and where you learned to hide it. Most people will run from their shadow, but you're not going to. You're going to sit with her and let her speak, even if the voice shakes, even when she says things that you do not want to hear. She's not trying to ruin you. She's trying to reunite with you. Shadow work is not a fucking trend. It's sobbing on the floor and then wiping your face and whispering, "I'm still the fucking prize." It's meeting your darkness like a lover instead of a threat, listening to what she needs instead of exiling her again. You learn that jealousy is a map pointing toward desires you've been taught to suppress. The rage is just love with no outlet. The shame is the body's way of saying, this pain deserves light. You stop gaslighting yourself. You stop begging to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop dressing your wounds in good girl energy and start wearing your scars like armor. Because this is the shift. The moment self-love stops being surface and starts being sovereignty. You learn to become your own safe space, your own parent, your own witness. You learn to hold both the ache and the ambition, the tenderness and the terror, the mess and the magnetism, and call it sacred. Shadow work is not about fixing what's broken. It's about loving what survived. And when you can hold that without flinching, you become impossible to manipulate. When you fall in love with your darkness, you stop needing light from anyone else. You stop performing, you start living whole. And I want you to ask yourself right now, when's the last time you made yourself proud? Not productive, not praised, proud. That is shadow work in motion, a simple question that shows you self-respect does not need witnesses. When you love your darkness, nobody can use it against you. And when you date yourself long enough, your life starts to flirt back. You stop building for approval and start building for aliveness. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing truth. You stop waiting for maybe someday, and you stop trying to fit your joy into what's practical or polite. You start making every room you walk into feel like it was waiting for you. You wake up electric, with rhythm, grounded, a sensual tempo that says, I belong here. You laugh louder, you move slower, you breathe deeper, and people can feel that before you even speak. Because you're no longer trying to prove you're worthy of the life you want, you're just living it. And suddenly, everything that used to drain you stops fitting. Half-assed love cannot touch you. Fake friendship can't sit next to you. Mediocrity feels like a poison because your body has recalibrated to a higher frequency, one that doesn't negotiate with anything less than embodied alignment. That's what happens when your standards are rooted in self-possession instead of scarcity. You stop asking for better, you just become it. You become the woman whose life already drips with meaning, and everything becomes a mirror for your power. You're not hustling anymore, you're curating energy, and the world rearranges itself around that frequency. And if you were at the Forge in the Fire event, you already know this energy. The fire is not about destruction, it's about initiation. It wasn't about burning the past, it was about remembering that your light doesn't come from being loved, it comes from being lit. Your fire was your nervous system remembering its voltage. The moment you realize you don't need someone else to do that for you. You are your own flame, your own warmth, your own spark, and you refuse to dim to make others comfortable. Because when a woman learns how to generate her own heat, she stops mistaking proximity for passion. She doesn't need saving, she's too busy shining. The woman who knows how to light herself up never fears being left in the dark because she finally understands. She is the light, and the darkness was only ever the contrast that made her glow. I had a video on TikTok go viral about this, but we're going to talk about your standard reset. When you date yourself first, you stop negotiating with anyone who does not match your energy. You stop proving your softness to people who mistake self-respect for arrogance. You stop letting potential seduce you because potential is the most dangerous illusion that there is. It's a promise that keeps women stuck in spiritual purgatory, waiting for someone someday to finally meet them now. You stop explaining your worth to people who can't afford it. You stop building connection through proving and start building your connection through presence. You no longer edit your voice to sound less intense, less passionate, less alive. Because you've dated yourself long enough to know your power is not up for negotiation. Peace is the password. Joy is non-negotiable. And your love stops being a service and starts being a fucking standard. You no longer audition for roles in other people's stories, you write your own. You no longer romanticize the struggle, you recognize it as a boundary that needs reinforcement. You no longer crave validation, you respect alignment. And yes, people will call you intimidating too much. That's fine, good. That means that they can feel your boundaries before you even speak, that your energy has become discernment, and your nervous system no longer confuses empathy with permission. Because the woman who dates herself knows silence is a boundary, not punishment. No is protection, not rejection. Distance is peace, not ego. This is an era of women who stop chasing emotional crumbs and start building empires from self-respect, where softness is no longer submission, it's strategy, where playfulness coexists with precision, where your radiance doesn't dim to make others comfortable, it expands them into understanding what self-ownership looks like. You're soft but sovereign. You're playful but powerful, rooted, radiant, untouchable. You are no longer the girl that's waiting to be chosen. You are the woman choosing. This is how you stop mistaking connection for chemistry. You stop calling inconsistency mystery, and you stop letting attraction override your awareness. You become the mirror that shows people exactly where they still abandon themselves, and they will either rise or they will retreat. You won't chase it either way. When you fall in love with your singleness, you stop performing healed and you start embodying holy. You become the standard that everyone has to rise to meet, but some never will. Not because you're unlovable, but because you finally are. If you're listening to this right now and there's a spark in your chest, that is your next chapter waking up. Inside of the Black Cat Academy, this is the work that we do. We take women who have already walked through the fire and teach them how to build a relationship with themselves that redefines the standards of love. How to turn freedom into magnetism. How to date themselves so completely that love becomes an extension of power, not proof of worth. We go deep into nervous system mastery, shadow play, pleasure, discernment, and the dark feminine art of self-leadership. We build women who are not waiting to be chosen. They choose, they lead, and they love fucking loudly. So if you're ready to stop searching for love outside of yourself and start mastering it to become a woman a narcissist can never touch and a good one can't lose, the Black Cat Academy is for you. If this episode cracks something open in you good, that's how awareness becomes authority and how healing becomes power. Share this episode with a woman who needs it, the one still mistaking chaos for connection and silence for loneliness. And remember, this is what makes you the narcissist's worst nightmare, a woman who does not explain and does not chase, and she will never confuse chaos with love again.